Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first ever edition of No Credentials Required Friday Happy Hour. I'm your host, Ryan McCarthy. And as always, this podcast, this live show is brought to you by Belly Up Sports in association with Godzilla Media. Before I continue, I just want to let you know about got a little schmutz on my microphone here. Didn't realize it. Looks like a little dust, little fuzz bunny got on here. All right. So before I continue with tonight's show, just want to let you know about our social media accounts here at No Credentials Required. So on Twitter and Instagram, you can find the show at BellyUpNCR. On Facebook, facebook.com/BellyUpNCR. And on YouTube, just search No Credentials Required. You'll find the channel. Just hit subscribe, then hit notifications, and you'll know when the show is live or when there's a new episode of the regular No Credentials Required is on. So before I get into everything I'm going to talk about tonight, this format for No Credentials Required, the podcast format is typically local sports centered in the Albany, New York capital region area. And what I decided to do is conglomerate the format for Around for the Weekend, which the last call was a couple weeks ago, and incorporate into a Friday talk show, live talk show. Talk about the national headlines for the week. Talk about breaking news happened on Friday, or this happened on Friday. Schmutz, don't get off my microphone. But just talk about national sports, national headlines that happened during the week. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. Amongst topics are the Stanley Cup Final. Can Montreal come back? The NBA playoffs. I'm buying in. I'm actually entertained by the NBA playoffs this year. And the Olympics, you might have to count me out. I might not be too excited about this year, but about the Olympics. Plus, gonna get some miscellaneous news for the week. And I've already got a comment from my buddy Gaz. I love you, Ryan. Love you too, buddy. This is my son's favorite show. I don't know why this is your son's favorite show. I'm just drinking and talking about sports. Maybe I've got like an ASMR type voice where I'm very soothing. Like I'm very soothing and I'm very talkative like this. I can talk like this in the ASMR, and I talk like this every night. Blue's Clues number 2. Yeah, Blue's Clues number 2 without the drag queen. I guess I don't know. But let's get to talking about what I'm drinking tonight for this week's Beer of the Week. I stopped by this afternoon at my friends at Slickfin Brewing up in Fort Edward, New York, and I picked up a crowler of their Demolition IPA. It's their Demolition IPA right here. It's 7.2. I'm sorry, 7% ABV. It's a New England style IPA, and there's a reason why they named this particular IPA Demolition. And the Demolition, what they did was that they're actually adding and this was explained to me today by the co-owner Heather. It's a husband-wife team. The husband, Chris, I've met Chris. He's a great guy. He is a former explosives expert for the U.S. Marines. He served a couple times in Iraq. Decided to start his own brewery in Fort Edward, New York. It's a historic place filled with a lot of history, and of course, the Independence Weekend is coming up. So happy birthday, United States! And he decided to start a brewery a couple years ago, and what they've done is that they've actually demolished the building next to, on the right of where the brewery is. They expanded a little bit. They've got now, I think it's a 1.5 ton, 1.5. They're now making 1.5 kegs of beer per series now, and what they named this IPA to celebrate the demolition of the building next door, and made an IPA. What they're going to do is that they're going to make next door. They're going to make, I guess, what Heather explained to me is an all seasons beer garden. I'm kind of curious to see what that is. Hopefully, maybe I can do a live show from there. But it'll be interesting to see what that all seasons beer garden looks like. Maybe some heated. Maybe they'll put the patio will be heated. There'll be some towers where they have the furnaces for some not fire pits, but just the propane tanks that let the light fires, and But they came up with this IPA. It's according to Untapped, it's a New England IPA, but we'll see about that. I mean, I had a little taste this afternoon to try it out, and I'm gonna pour some right now. Make sure I'm getting on my laptop here. There we go. All right, and as usual, my co-host with Around for the Weekend made it to Friday's NCR Friday Happy Hour. My mason jar mug. Let's give it a pour. Let's see what it looks like and have a taste. Going as slow as possible here. Maybe this is the appeal that Rex like Gus. He likes to see me pour a beer. Maybe I have a soothing voice. I don't know. It's funny. Like when I hold babies, like they huddle up like right near my chest. So it's different when I hold little babies. It's very, and especially newborns and infants like less than 2 months old. Like they'll cuddle up right here. So I must have like a soothing voice or something like that. So, all right, here's the little bit of head on that, but beautiful clarity, nice amber color, light amber color, folks. We're celebrating independence this weekend. Here's to the weekend. Enjoy your independence. Cheers, everyone. Ooh, that is a solid IPA. You know how some IPAs are they're hazy. They're very hazy. It's New England style IPA. I don't see this much as a New England IPA. It's not very hazy. It's actually a little more clear, but some IPAs are very bitter, like the West Coast IPAs are very bitter. New England IPAs are very hazy, very light tasting. This is kind of an in-between. Some IPAs are just outrageously flowery, and they taste like perfume. This does not. This is very drinkable. It's highly drinkable. It's kind of an in-between the West Coast and New England style. Again, look, very clear West Coast style, but light on the bitterness. And pretty crushable for 7%, like a New England IPA would be. All right. So now that I've talked about this beer enough, and my friends at Slickfin. So again, thanks, Chris and Heather. It's great beer. I also have 3 other crowlers waiting for me for the weekend. So, all right, let's get into some sports talk, folks. And the first topic we're going to talk about is the Stanley Cup Final. Tonight is Game 3 at the Bell Center in Montreal. Tampa Bay currently has a 2-0 series advantage over the Montreal Canadiens. The big question is, can Montreal come back? A little bit of history for you guys. So back in 1986, when most of you weren't even born, who's even alive then? Oh wait, I was. I'm old. Back in 1986, the Canadiens played against the Calgary Flames. Calgary Flames had a pretty decent team back then. The Canadiens had a certain goaltender by the name of Patrick Roy, who was a rookie goaltender, and they were down 2-0 in that series. Canadiens came back, went up 1-4 straight, taking the series 4-2. Can it happen? Can it happen this year? I hope so. And Montreal's back at the Bell Center. They haven't been unbeaten. They've lost a few games at the Bell Center this postseason. I believe they've lost 3 or 4 games at the Bell Center. About 3. They lost twice against Toronto in games 3 and 4 in their first round series. They lost once against Vegas in that division semifinal, and they're playing tonight. So it hasn't been exactly the fortress the Bell Center is, but they're going to have very limited folks in the stands. I know Canada's COVID guidelines are a little more strict than the United States. I know New York, we just opened up recently. Our Albany Empire, our sports teams can now have 100% capacity at their arenas. So the Albany Empire can have 100% capacity. The Tri-City Valley Cats, they can have 100% capacity. Very excited. I'm hoping to go see the Premier Lacrosse League when it comes to town in mid-August, August 13th and 14th, hoping to take some pictures on the field. If I can't take pictures on the field, I'll just go sit in the stands and take pictures from there. But the Bell Center, the Canadians tried to get an exception to have 10,500 people in the stands, which is about half capacity for the Bell Center. The Quebec government put the kibosh on that and said, no, we're not going to allow. You're not going to allow you to have 10,000 people in this 10,500 in the stands, which is sad. But I guess they're selling tickets outside of the Bell Center to have people sit outside of the arena. About 25,000 people are going to be outside. I suspect socially distanced with masks on, watching the game on the big screen. But we'll have 3,500 people in the stands at Bell Center, and I guess tickets are outrageously high. I think I saw 15,000 Canadian dollars for one ticket at the Bell Center for the Stanley Cup. Now, I would have gone up there. I would have definitely gone up there because I'm my proximity to Montreal. I'm about 3.5 hours south of Montreal. It would have been fun to go to a Stanley Cup final game in Montreal. But unfortunately, the border is still closed, I think, until the 22nd of July. And bear with me just a second here. Oh, text message. Okay, never mind. All right, so yeah. So back on topic. So I would, but the border's not open. I think until either July 5th or the July 21st. I can't remember the exact timeline. I know that almost 70% of all Americans have at least one vaccination. I think Canada's going up there. The between 70 and 75% have had their first vaccination. But it would have been fun to stop by my buddy Rod Peterson's show today just to say hi. But also to see the Stanley Cup final game. But I think with the Canadiens coming back to the Bell Center, I think they take game 3. I think they win it by at least a goal. I know they're pretty unbeatable this postseason when they've scored 3 or more goals. So that would take a lot of effort for Montreal to do because they've only scored once. They've only scored 2 goals against Andrei Vasilevsky all for both the Stanley Cup final games. So, I think they would having that home cooking back at the Bell Center. I think they make a game of it tonight. They make a series of it. I think they make a series of it. I think they win at least. I think they win 3-2. I think Carey Price has himself a solid match. I think the Canadiens will manage to try to find a way to get in front of Andrei Vasilevsky. That's where he's had the most trouble this postseason. If there are opposing players in front of him, and I think, and it's just basically for any goaltender, you put a body in front of them, they sometimes have trouble seeing the puck. Pucks get through, goals get scored. Bob's your uncle, to turn a phrase. So I think Montreal comes back tonight. I think they win this game. I think they win 3-2. Or 3-1. They score 3 goals against Andrei Vasilevsky, then they'll probably win the game. And unless it turns into an 8-6 affair like we had back in the 2011 Stanley Cup Final between Chicago and Philly, that was a wild game. I don't see this kind of a wild. I mean, at least one Stanley Cup game has to be kind of a wild game where both teams are just going back and forth, scoring goals. That's typically historically true. Even back in the days of the New Jersey Devils where they would clamp down, my favorite team, the New Jersey Devils, when they would clamp down in different games. I think game 1 of the 2000 Stanley Cup Final, they went up winning 7-4. They had a wild game 5 of this 2003 Stanley Cup Final. They went up winning, I think, 7-3 in that game. that was a crazy game, but there's at least one game, if I remember from in my memory banks, that is just completely banana sandwich, and both teams score multiple goals in terms of goals in bunches. You see one team score, you come back, they score, the other team scores. Kind of like this tete-a-tete, back and forth affair when it's just wide open hockey. Mistakes both teams are sloppy defensively. We're going to have one of those games in this series. I doubt it'll be tonight. The Canadians have Dominic Ducharme back behind the bench. He's been out of in COVID protocol for the last 2 weeks. From what I understand, he's been asymptomatic, but he's kept in communication with Luke Richardson, who is one of his assistants, he's done a great job behind the bench for the Canadiens in Ducharme's absence. So it's going to be, I think this is going to be a low scoring game again, but I think Montreal with their home cooking, they're going to win tonight. But I guarantee at least one game in this series is going to be banana sandwich, going to be crazy go nuts when it's going to be sloppy defense. It's going to be back and forth, goals galore. We got to have that kind of a game sometime. I think it's going to be in game 4. But tonight, Montreal takes, I think they win 3-2. And the game starts in about 10 to 15 minutes. About 10 to 15 minutes. So Montreal, can they come back? I think they'll come back. I think they'll win at least one at home, if not 2. And they have best of 3 after that. So it's going to be a fun. It's been an entertaining series so far. If you're a Tampa Bay fan, but it's competitive hockey. Game 2 was much more competitive than Game 1. I think Game 3 will be just as competitive, but Montreal will have that home advantage. I think they win tonight. If they don't, I'll eat my words. I'll just drink more beer and be happy. All right, so let's move on to the next topic, which is the NBA Finals, NBA playoffs. Unlike last couple seasons, I haven't really paying attention. I'll confess, I haven't been too big into the NBA since Michael Jordan retired. I probably because I don't play as much basketball as I used to. Yeah, I'm a bigger dude, a little bit husky, as you can probably see in my big round shoulders. But I used to play a lot of basketball back in the day, and the more I played basketball, the more I pay attention to it. I broke my ankle back in 2002. I haven't played much basketball since then, but even so, I kind of loosely pay attention to the NBA, not so much these days, but these playoffs, I've been interested. I've been interested to see what's going to happen, and I'll give you a couple of reasons why. Number one, here in Albany, the 518 area, the Muddy 518. We have a local interest who's playing basketball. He's playing for the Atlanta Hawks. He is Kevin Herter. He is I think I can't remember his nickname. It's not White Chocolate. That was Jason Williams. I think it was like Red Velvet or Red. So I can't remember his nickname, but he's one of the big reasons why the Atlanta Hawks are where they are right now. Although they're down 3-2, they had kind of a bad game last night against Milwaukee. Nobody predicted for them to get this far. Nobody really predicted the Atlanta Hawks to be in the position they are right now. They've only won one title in their history. That's back in the 1960s when they were in St. Louis. And now they're on the cusp of making the NBA Finals for the first time in several generations. And that's all thanks to Trae Young and to Kevin Herter. And he's one of those outstanding players who is, you figured, okay, he's a white dude, he's a shooter. No, he's a very complete player. He plays defense, he moves well without the ball. He knows how to get open. Yeah, he's a good shooter too, but that's not all his game. His game is pretty complete. He's a good, solid defender. He can hustle to the ball, and he's a good leader. He's a good leader. I think it's his third or second season. He played at Maryland. He played at my old high school, Shenandoah High School in Clifton Park, New York. And that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of buying into the playoffs. I'm counting me in for the NBA playoffs. Number two reason why I'm kind of back in the NBA circle, Chris Paul. Chris Paul has been in the league for, I think, 13 or 14 seasons. If you're watching, if you're in the comments, just let me know if I'm wrong. I think he's played 13 or 14 seasons in the NBA. Been close a couple times to go in the NBA Finals. Now he got traded to the Phoenix Suns in the offseason. He's kind of become that last piece that the Suns have needed over the last couple of seasons with a very young team, but they have one of the best point guards in the league, solid point guard, and Chris Paul. And he's been one of the biggest reasons why the Suns are now in the NBA Finals for the first time since 1993, when Charles Barkley, Kevin Johnson, Dan Marley, Thunder Dan Marley. Those days, Oliver Miller, those players were in the NBA Finals against the mighty Chicago Bulls. I was secretly rooting for the Suns to win because I wanted really badly for Charles Barkley to get a ring. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. I can thank John Paxson for that. Excuse me, I did a little sip there. Ooh, that's solid. Solid beer. But John Paxson kind of ruined that in Game 6. But the Phoenix Suns have an opportunity to finally get off the schneid. They are the longest lasting franchise in Arizona, professional franchise in Arizona. The Suns have been in existence, I think, since 1967. So it's been over 50 years. They've been in the NBA Finals only a couple times. Lost both times in 6. I think they lost in the 70s to the Boston Celtics. They played one of the longest. I think they're the team that has played in 2 of the longest NBA Finals games ever. I believe they lost to Boston in the 1970s in, I think, triple overtime, and then they did the same thing with the Bulls, but they won, I think, in Game 3 in Chicago in triple overtime in the 93 NBA Finals. They've been involved in some of the longest games in NBA Finals history. But now they have the chance to finally win their first NBA title. Thanks to Chris Paul. I'm sorry if I haven't really studied up on NBA in terms of who is on the Suns. But I'm 16 seasons. Okay, so he's been in the league for 16 seasons. And he's one of those guys I've kind of secretly rooted for. I don't really pay much attention to the NBA, but I know who Chris Paul is. He had a great career at Wake Forest before he went to the NBA. Played some really good years in New Orleans with the Hornets. Then they become the Pelicans. Never really got close to the NBA Finals as a Pelican/Hornet. And now he has the opportunity to win his first ring. And he's one of the good guys in the sport in the NBA. And I'm rooting for him to get his ring. If the Hawks don't go in the NBA Finals, I'm gonna, and the Milwaukee Bucks go instead, I'm gonna root for the Phoenix Suns to win, just because of Chris Paul. He's a good dude. I guess on and off the court, he's an okay guy, really solid community guy. So, I'm buying in. For NBA playoffs, count me in. Count me in. Once the finals start, I'll definitely be reading more often and just reading some of the matchups. I mean, one of the things that's kind of soured me about the NBA is that it's kind of become a glorified YMCA league where everybody, but you call your own fouls and nobody plays defense. That's true because I used to play YMCA ball, but yeah, I mean, NBA playoffs, count me in. And we'll go to our next topic, which is the Olympics. Count me out? ? And there's a couple of things about the Olympics that have kind of soured me. Obviously, the Olympics last year were postponed due to COVID. I guess Japan's still under state of emergency. There's a couple of things that about the Olympics kind of soured me, especially some of the controversies. A couple weeks ago I think it was last week. I think it was last week on Craft Brewed Sports. Shout out to those guys. Mike, Mookie, Scott, intern Aiden, those guys, they were a solid podcast. Go listen to them when you have a chance. I was on their podcast a couple weeks ago talking hockey, talking other sports. But they mentioned that in the Olympics, in Japan, in Tokyo, there's no cheering. So if you're in the crowd, there's no cheering. And you barely can't go outside your own quarters if you're an athlete. So, and I understand there's a state of emergency, and it's a big thing with that going on. So, It's just kind of crazy that athletes can't really interact with each other unless they're on the same team. There's also the weightlifting, the women's weightlifting, the heavyweight division. There's some controversy there with a transgender athlete who somehow he okay I don't know, I don't know what the rules are in terms of calling people what they want. So forgiving for that in that regard, but um as a someone who was born in biologically male, transitioned to female, who's 43 years old, who's my age, and is participating in the IOC let them again. I don't know the rules, so forgive me about the pronouns thing, whatever. But they're allowing that person to participate as a member of the New Zealand women's weightlifting team. It's kind of crazy. It's really crazy. And I guess there's other controversy with a U.S. runner, two U.S. runners. One's a long distance runner. She got popped for an illegal steroid from what she claims was a burrito she ate, a pork burrito she ate from some food truck in L.A. or in California. And I guess there's if people feed pigs steroids, it can pass in the system to humans, which is what happened here. And she made an appeal, and her appeal got denied, so she's banned from the sport for 4 years. This is her prime that she's banned for 4 years from any from any running competition because she got popped for a steroid that happened to be in the food she ate, and she can't go to the Olympics, which is really sad. And now we come to this controversy with an Olympic sprinter, Sha'Carri Richardson. She tested positive for marijuana by the World Anti-Drug Administration. And because of that trace amount of marijuana, she has accepted a 1-month suspension, and she's not running in the Olympics. This is crazy. This is the craziest thing. And this is why I'm not interested in the Olympics this year. Because you can't, if you're live at the games, you can't cheer. You can't outwardly cheer for your country. They're letting someone who was born who was born a biological male compete in women's weightlifting. The WADA banned a long distance runner because she ate a burrito. It's like eating a poppy seed bagel and testing positive for heroin. And they're banning a sprinter from the United States because she got popped for marijuana when it doesn't really affect her performance. Now, going back to the Sha'Carri Richardson situation, I kind of thought about it before I read up on it. This is what I kind of thought in my head. I had some thoughts about it. Maybe it's a medical prescription. Maybe it was CBD. It had some trace amounts of THC in CBD if she was treating herself with CBD for recovery, because that's become popular now. CBD oil, CBD products are now being used as recovery for athletes. Maybe those two situations. Turns out that she found out her biological mother passed away, and she was using marijuana to cope with the loss of her mother. Now, I think if you're a sprinter and you've earned your spot on the team, you probably should have used better judgment, knowing that you're going to be tested for drugs. You're going to be tested for drugs before you went to the Olympics. And she should have used better judgment. That being said, if a certain drug does not have anything to do with performance, why are you testing for it? You don't test for alcohol. I mean, I'm drinking a beer right now. Am I going to go play some basketball or do some activities afterwards? No, I'm going to go eat dinner and enjoy the rest of this crowler I got. And tomorrow I'm going to go work out at the gym because it's leg day. Got to work on my getaway sticks. But no, it's crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy town. The World Anti-Drug Administration, and I get it. Dick Pound has a funniest name in sports. Funniest names in sports. Dick Pound has a complete hard-on for trying to bust Lance Armstrong back in the day. And so they decide marijuana is on the list. Like a trace amount of marijuana could land you with a one month suspension, and you miss out on your chance of getting an Olympic medal. And you can't compete again until 2024, and I think London or LA. I can't remember which Olympics, where the next Olympics is, but I think it's LA. Correct me if I'm wrong, or if it's somewhere in Europe. Anyway, getting off track. If you're being busted for a drug that will not enhance your performance, that's crazy town. That's crazy town. And I'm not a marijuana user. I think I always stay away from that stuff. My drug of choice is beer and caffeine. Admittedly, beer, alcohol, and caffeine are my drugs of choice. But no, I mean, I'm not an advocate for marijuana. I'm not being an advocate for marijuana, but this is not going to enhance your performance. I mean, if anything, if she gets tested for marijuana, she tested positive for marijuana in sprints, she should get 2 medals. She should get double gold if she wins the event. But this is crazy town. And this is part of the reason why I'm not really psyched about the Olympics this year. I'm just not psyched for it. I mean, part of it is, another reason for it is because I can't watch live events. Unless I get up at 3 a.m. to watch a live event because it's in Tokyo, I'm not interested. I'll watch on tape delay. I'll watch clips on YouTube. But I'm just you might have to count me out for the Olympics this year, guys. I'm really sorry. This is nuts. That is crazy. And also we'll get copious amounts of Megan Rapinoe shoved down our throat, and I'm not a big fan of hers. So for various reasons. Which I won't go into. I'm going to drink some more beer afterwards. But we're cutting up on 30-something minutes into this program. So, but yeah, Olympics, you might have to count me out this year. I'm not particularly psyched for it. And I understand, and from what I understand too, we might not have NHL players participate in the 2022 Winter Games in Beijing. And the hell, last time that happened, Russia beat Germany in probably one of the best gold medal games I've seen in a very long time. Yeah, that was a great game. I'm sorry. They weren't Russia. They were Olympic athletes from Russia, because technically the Russian Federation was banned from the Olympics because of the doping scandals, which again, that's part of the reason why I'm not really tuned in now. They're really high in the Olympics, but that's just my opinion. Take it for what you will. All right, so let's go to miscellaneous news of the week. It's been kind of a crazy week in the NCAA, particularly. I'm going to spend only a little bit of time on this. I guess they're finally allowing name, image, and likeness athletes to capitalize on name, image, and likeness for income. And Reggie Bush has been on the warpath. Chris Webber has been on the warpath. They want their records back, and I totally understand. I don't know if you can retroactively go bring those medals and those records up. Reggie Bush has been completely going after the NCAA, and I guess the Heisman Committee is considering is heavily weighing on whether or not they will give back his Heisman Trophy that he won in 2005. That's going to be huge if they allow him to reclaim his Heisman Trophy. It'll also be interesting if the NCAA will allow his records back in the record books. It'll be very, very fascinating to see if the Fab Five from the University of Michigan, if the University of Michigan will put their banners back up from the Final Four appearances in the Big Ten championships and the NCAA appearances they made back in 1992 and 93. It'll be interesting to see that those banners go back up at University of Michigan because of what happened back with the Fab Five. Now, name, image, likeness, football players, basketball players, I think they get enough coverage. I think the athletes who should probably benefit the most, or that I hope will benefit the most, are the ones that are non-scholarship. I think it'll benefit them the most. And I hope it'll benefit them the most, because those are the athletes that don't get scholarships. They don't get free rides. I understand if you're, players will, if you're on the basketball team or if you're on the football team, walk-ons will earn scholarships. But I think for any non-scholarship athletes, it's going to help them the most because they don't get paid. They don't get full rides to their respective universities. Like events, I think rowing. Rowers can get themselves endorsements from I guess rowing companies. Fencing, same thing. I trying to figure out which other. I'm trying to think off the top of my head which other sports are non-scholarship. Any kind of non-scholarship sports, I think those athletes have the most to gain from the name, image, and likeness being allowed for reimbursement from the NCAA in all three divisions too, for Division 1, 2, and 3. So if you're a local athlete, especially, and you're looking for some coin, I know some universities are going to start making rules of how much they can, about the maximum they can earn for name, image, likeness. But I think you should have a limit for the scholarship athletes because they're already getting a free ride. They're getting their free room and board, their free tuition, free books. They're getting that taken care of, at least as far as I know. Tuition, room, board, they're all taken care of. But for the non-scholarship athletes, that will be a huge benefit to them. I think it'll be a huge benefit to them. That's my take on it. Maybe I'll go into it a little bit further next week on Friday Happy Hour, but that's just my opinion on name, image, likeness, and that's what I got so far. So again, if you're watching there, if you're out there watching, you're in the comments. Tell me if I'm wrong. If you're on Twitterverse, tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm out of line. But again, that's just my take. That's my take, and I'll put this. I'm actually going to put this up on for podcast later on. Now, this will be kind of a fun debate to have as to which athletes will benefit the most from name, image, likeness. And I really hope it's the non-scholarship athletes. They get no limit on how much they can earn. Feel free to cap the scholarship players, but the non-scholarship athletes, give them a bigger bump. Let them earn as much money as they can to pay off all that student debt they're probably going to accrue, and for extra food, extra training, to pay for extra training, to pay for extra food if they need it, extra supplementation if they need it, because being a student athlete is not that easy. It's not that easy. I've watched documentaries on it. I've watched videos about student athletes having to get up at the wee hours in the morning, train, then they're expected to go to class and maintain a specific average so they can keep going to school and compete in their sport. So again, that's my opinion about name, image, likeness. Feel free to drop a line on my socials, which I'm going to bring back here. I'm going to do a call back on. We're going to wrap things up in just a moment. But if you want to chirp at me about the Stanley Cup Final, about the beer I'm drinking, about NBA playoffs, about the Olympics, about NCAA name, image, likeness, they're the socials. Twitter, Instagram at BellyUpNCR, Facebook.com/BellyUpNCR, and then finally YouTube, no credentials required. All right, folks. Thank you for joining me on this new journey I'm on with no credentials required. This has been the No Credentials Required Friday Happy Hour presented by Belly Up Sports in association with Godzilla Media. I've been your host, Ryan McCarthy. Folks, enjoy your Independence Day. Be thankful for your freedoms. Be thankful for the people who defend your freedoms. Throw an egg at the senator's house. I'm just kidding about that. But exercise your rights. Exercise your rights because men and women have died to keep those rights, and just be thankful for the freedoms you have, especially this holiday weekend. Happy Independence Day, folks. Cheers. We'll see you next week.